Thank you. I had a great time.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Real Story with Nathaniel. Our guest tonight is
From the shadows to the light, she's walked through fire, found her voice inside, turn pain into purpose, rise up and see every broken piece is who you're meant to be. From surviving the storm to living your truth, here's Peshka bringing hope to you. Believe it, the story can change too.
That was an interesting AI intro.
We did it.
Welcome to the show, Peshka. That was you're a superstar according to AI. I did like it. There's a lot of good animation in there. Hey everybody. Today we're joined by Peshka, a certified professional coach and realtor based in Florida, and as someone who has mastered what she calls recycling trauma, taking the raw materials of her past and shape-shifting them into personal power. Her journey, detailed in her memoir, Trauma Recycled, shows us that it's never too late to find your voice. And first off, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. It was great. We all sat down and did some research and got to know you a little bit. I can't wait to dig in and talk, but can you explain, how did you take the broken tools of your childhood and reshape them into the power you use today? Just jump right in on that.
Yeah. So it was a process. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. So it wasn't like I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take all this broken stuff and I'm going to turn it into magic tools and then go on and have this great life. It was a process. It was a journey. And the work is really where the magic was for me. You know, as tough as it was and as long as it was, it continues to be.
You have to do the work. I think that's the thing some people miss is if you want something, it does take work. I wanted to be on a show talking to people and interviewing them, and I had to convince my friends that it was a good idea. It was a lot of work. Hey,
so I just jump real quick is building on that. It's you've been pretty clear that you don't use titles like victim or survivor. Why is it so vital for your identity to refuse to use those labels? What title do you prefer? You know,
I love that. I love that question. And thank you for bringing that up. So for me, labels are a really big deal. And I believe that I know that I went through such a hard time of taking the labels off. And those were the ones that were affixed to me by others as well as myself. And I believe that using terminology like that almost leaves like a little bit of a Band-Aid on, so to speak. And it's a little bit of an identity that we can kind of hang on to. And I can only speak for myself because everybody's different. And you know, you have to go through stages of grief when you're moving through trauma. So trauma isn't just like, hey, this horrible thing happened and I'm going to forget about it and move on. So you're grieving and you're moving through this process. So for me, holding on to a title, and I remember going to see therapists that were like, oh, you're a survivor. And I'd just be like, you know, I didn't drop out of a plane and land on the ground and get up and walk away. I'd kind of be a survivor at that point. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't want to diminish anybody else's feelings or emotions when they are moving through trauma, because I think that is a very appropriate feeling, victimized, you know, so I think that everybody's going to move differently with that. I wasn't going to hang there for long. And I really didn't. And it's very liberating to me to say, my name is Ann and I'm an amazing woman. And that's it.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I love that you can I don't know, I'm going to move back is what we're going to do. I want to kind of get, when you were 22, you were homeless and you had a 3-year-old son and you made the difficult decision to place your child up for adoption. Now that's a very tough thing, but at this point, like, can I get some background of like what your day to day was like? How you ended up in this decision, just like if you could do a snapshot of the month or two before that happened, what was your life like and what was the final straw?
Absolutely. So I was very much living in victimhood. It was everybody else's fault that my life was hell. I was drinking. I was in a bad relationship. I was living with my son's father, who's a great guy. So it's not like he did anything wrong. This was how I was showing up to the table. Bad mix for any relationship, right?
Sure.
So I was the toxin. So I decide to leave and I have nowhere to go. So somehow I thought that was a good idea. And I end up going into the system and they put me into this, welfare motel and also a shelter. So I had different places I was living. But still in my mind, my life was just horrible and all these bad things were happening to me because the circumstances of my life were just so. So, if the day was terrible or something broke or something went wrong, it'd be like, yep, that's just the way it is. So I was living in chaos and actually thriving in it. Like I used to actually say, I wouldn't know what to do without chaos. And that was really crazy because all I was doing was telling the universe, hey, bring me more.
I don't care what this decision means.
Exactly. So very desperate, very desolate, very isolated, very kind of the feeling. This is such a really powerful feeling that I had for a very, very long time, is like being swept into an ocean wave that turns you upside down. You don't know which way to go, and it's very hard to breathe. I moved through that for a couple of decades. So, and now I've got this little guy with me. So I've got my son who's like this perfect piece of magic. And he's looking at me thinking I'm like some rock star. You know what I mean? Like to him, I walk on water. Like I'm like everything to him, which really kind of blew my mind, and it's really looking back on it now. I mean, what a saving grace that was, because it was just that little bit of love that I was able to feel because I was so shut off and cold to love. Just that little bit might have been just enough,
So 30 years later, your faith in putting your son up for adoption resulted in him moving nearby. What was it like the day you heard that news? Like,
well, the day that I heard the news that that we reconnected, or the day that he wanted to move here?
I kind of the day. Let's go with both. The day you reconnected. So I you did a DNA search, and I guess he obviously did too, or close enough. Yeah. You're able to connect. Well, what were your nerves like? Who sent the first message?
The funny thing was I had been on DNA. I was adopted, and I had been searching for my birth family since I was in my 20s. So I have been, hiring investigators, psychics. I mean, I did everything, DNA, everything. So when I got an email from 23andMe that said you have a match, I assumed it was birth family, because when I placed him for adoption, I made it very clear to the agency to let his family know I will never look. But if they ever need anything or need to find me, or he wants to find me, I always updated my address and phone number. So I really didn't want to ever be, that person that they had to look in the rearview mirror or felt they needed to look in the rearview mirror. So when I opened up the email, I was like, oh my God, 99.9% my son. And that was really I remember sitting there in my living room, exactly where I was that day. Like, holy shit. Like, how
if I ever saw that result, I would act the same way. But
immediately took me back, because I was like, what is going on here? So I emailed him through the app and I said, wow, if you were born on such and such date, I think I might be your birth mom. And he wrote back, I was. And so we started talking through, corresponding through 23andMe app, and then it went into text messaging and we shared pictures and such. But, I was very clear that I'm coming at this as an adoptee as well, which is an advantage, because I know how he probably feels.
Well, yeah, sure.
Like, what the hell happened and why am I here, kind of a feeling. So I was very transparent and explained to him that, when I got pregnant with him, I was just not in a good way. And I had another child that I was struggling to take care of, and myself. So my decision, I explained to him, told him as much as I could, about his birth father and that whole situation. And then he in turn told me he was just merely looking for medical information. So it's not like he was like directly looking for me. Curiosity, perhaps, I don't know. That's his journey.
Sure.
So 9 months of that went on, and I had made it really clear from the very beginning, like I'll jump on a plane in like 5 minutes and come. He lived on the other side of the country, or we will take our time. Like, this is completely, everything is in your hands. This is now your gift that you can decide what to do with, and I will honor that. It was a little hard because I just wanted to see him. You know what I mean? But I had pictures, and after 9 months, I did get on a plane and went out there and met him, and that was just super special. Such a great person, great human, great family, and so he did come, visit me in Florida, kind of like the area, and then maybe a year after that, said, "Hey, you know what? I think I want to move there," and I was in real estate, newly into real estate, and found him a house, and boom, he lives right down the road.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I was going to ask another question to follow up, but like, I mean, I don't want this to be lost. You mentioned something kind of that really, it's just such a minor little detail, but I feel like it says a lot. It's like you had rules. Like, you had talked to yourself about this before, this whole discussion. Like, you ever talk to yourself in the shower, like you have a situation play out? You did that, but you established rules before you went into this. And that's like a level of emotional maturity that I can't imagine having at all. But I mean, clearly, you've been through some scenarios before. So it's, can you talk about that? Like, what kind of rule, is this a normal thing that you've done before? Like, set up rules, or is this just like, was this part of that that process, or?
It's funny because back then I didn't think that I was all that. I really didn't think. I really felt like a train wreck. You know what I mean? I am the oldest of 8 children. That says a lot, right? So I am the rule maker. I am so there's a lot to that. And then, now that I know myself and I've really been able to do so many deep dives, I'm very much a manifesting generator. So there's certain things about my persona that just are a certain way.
I dig it. I mean, that's again, it's having rules. We talk about this before in previous shows. I think Nathaniel here, being the one who was like the relationship guidance counselor, I guess, of some sort, the relationship smith, he would, always say you have to have rules when you're talking to your partner. But I think this, extrapolating that onto a level of just an everyday situation and hearing that come out of somebody's mouth, it's just especially something this intense, meeting your son again. I mean, that's wild. So
it really was because I didn't spend, I know I've spoken to a lot of other birth moms and had conversations, and a lot of people do grieve the entire time. Like, that just never goes away. It was so incredibly unique for me to experience something so solid. Like, I still had some sadness, and I still had some grieving, and I still had that moment after he was born, where, I sat there and I kind of fantasized about, being able to take him home and have the stroller and the 2 brothers play together. So I still had that maternal fantasy going on. Very quickly, was able to stumble out of that going, Jesus, like, you're just a mess. Like, you can't do that, So I think that's very normal for people to move through that process. But I had zero doubt that I was doing the right thing. And when I chose his family, I was like, I had 5 families to choose from, and several of them had 0 children. You would have thought I would gravitate towards those folks, but his parents already had adopted 2 siblings. That wasn't what drew me. It was something about their bio. And I was like, that's them. Years later. Oh, go ahead.
You said you were adopted and one of 7 children. So were you adopted and then they had 7 kids, or were you adopted as the oldest into a younger kid family? I'm just curious. Like, it's I'm sure it's not relevant, but I'm just curious.
So my parents were married and could not have children, and the doctor said, it's just never going to happen. You may as well adopt. So they were in the Air Force. They scooped me up at this location in Tampa. And about a year, a couple of months later, they went back and got another daughter, no biological relation. And then we moved to Michigan and we adopted my brother. And then all of a sudden they had 5 natural kids in a row.
Oh, there you go.
So
There
I
you
just
go.
like, I used to tease my mom, like, that was no joke picking the girl first. I mean, you've got the
Yeah.
babysitter, the cook, the
Babysitter,
cleaner, all
dishwasher.
that stuff.
That's hilarious.
But
Were
yeah.
you
Yeah.
10 at the time? Like that seems to be now we have a built-in, we could leave and the 10-year-old will take care of the kids.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I was like 6 when that happened. But
Oh, you got a couple years of we don't trust you yet, but then you were just locked in. You can't go to prom. You have to change diapers.
right. Yeah.
So I swear I'm going to get to my next question, but again, you drop these little like breadcrumbs of just like amazing. So you'd casually mentioned also you went to groups with other mothers. Resource wise, if somebody's watching this right now, how did you stumble across these, or was it something you sought out? Was there like a pamphlet? Like, I mean, how'd you come across that? Because I mean, that's in the age of information, it still fascinates me how difficult it is to find resources when people are in a time of need, especially when you're in such a heightened level of need. I mean, that's
yeah. There were zero resources for me actually. The birth moms I'm referring to are all ones that I've been talking to in the past like decade. So
gotcha.
Back then, so this was the late 80s, it was called the Yellow Pages adoption. So
explain that to our younger guests.
Oh man.
And that was a nightmare because I'm literally on the phone and there some places are offering, all I'm looking for is I need a place to live and I need medical care and I need my son to be able to be with me. That's it. They're offering money. Well, you can go to Pennsylvania so that nobody will know. You'll be able to come back into your hometown, and I'm just sitting there like scratching my head. Like, first of all, I'm not looking to get paid, and I'm not ashamed, and don't need to move. So I finally, find a place that felt right, and it was right. Everything was really good, and I did have a social worker that was helping me with it, but she was really her role. She's just a beautiful woman. Her role was to make sure that I was going to actually go through with the adoption. So, she would just ask me questions like, based on the family life that you were raised in, are you sure you're making the right decision? How are you going to feel not knowing what kind of family he's going to?
Good questions, sure.
They're valid, very valid questions. And the crazy thing is, I didn't know what the word faith meant. I had no idea what faith really meant. I had heard it,
but at 22.
I had never felt it until I reflected on those moments. And I
the
was
George Michael song. Yeah.
100% that was faith.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know if I should save this for the end or because it's kind of a follow-up, but I don't want to escape this. Did you ever find information on your birth parents?
I did.
And
should have saved that for the end. Should I? Josh, editing
so
note.
I'm gonna tell you, like when I tell you my book is good, like my book is good, right? So,
yeah. By the way, the book
save it and make people buy the book.
The book.
This was literally within a year of finding Nathan, my son. I found my birth family, and they were alive. Both of my parents. They lived in Florida. I had just moved to Florida from Connecticut. And they had told nobody about me and were very surprised. It was a first cousin who found me and really didn't believe I existed because nobody knew. So what happened is my parents were not married at the time that they got pregnant with me and they decided to place me for adoption. And my mom moved to Tampa to do that, had me, boom, I was gone. 2 years later, they went on and they got married. They got together and then they decided to go back and try to find me. And I was way gone. I was already on my way. And they went on to have 2 other children. So I have 2 biological sisters. So when I finally, reached them on the phone, I mean, that was really, they were in their my mom was in her late 70s and dad was in his late 80s. So it was pretty magical to be able to meet them all and know them. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, but that was just like the coolest relationship I ever had for 4 years.
And your son got to meet him.
He did.
Both your
really,
sons actually. But
I have 3. I have 2 other sons. So yeah.
That's really. I should have saved it for the end. You're right, Zaz.
It's okay.
The book is Trauma Recycled, which you can find it at Peshka.com.
And down in the right-hand corner, of course, we have that ad, and we have a QR code I believe Josh can put up there in the top of the screen. You can scan that, and that will take you to Amazon page where you can buy it, or you could go to anpeshka.com. where you can find all this information. But you know, your story's worth. I'm going to buy the book. I really want to read this. I grew up in a traditional, whereas my mother eventually, towards the end of her life, admitted that my sister's math was correct. They got married when she was pregnant with my sister, and then had 4 more kids. Versus, you know, like, so this is all fascinating to me from a different side of things. I didn't experience any of this. In fact, my parents stayed married till my dad died, and I don't understand often the difference between in-laws and step and like all this second cousin-y things, because we were just a small.
Are you
little
humble bragging right now, Nathaniel? Because I don't think I appreciate.
No. It's not a humble brag. It's I'm really outside of this story you're telling, and I don't think what I'm trying to encourage people is, if you weren't adopted, if you didn't go through what we're going to discuss soon, your major life changes, there's a fascination. There's something to read from the outside that I'm fascinated with. So I'm gonna buy your book. Yeah. It was not at all. It's like my life was very.
I was messing with
you guys know me. That. If I talk to somebody who's very different from me, I'm diving in. So, so this is I know Zaz has a question here, but
yeah, I keep alluding to it, but it's like I was so fascinated by it, 'cause she just like there's so many details to this story. I'm sure there's like 2 books you could write just about the backstory. Like you're creating your own like cinematic universe here, and it's like. But yeah, it's like, and this next piece, it's like, the sense of choice seems to have returned in March 2020. You walked away from an unhappy marriage and a pre-retired life with essentially nothing. What was the exact moment you realized your silence was costing you millions emotionally and professionally? ... It's March 2020, which if like Nathaniel said with his math, that's around COVID lockdown too, correct? So you love to have these moments right at the most like epic times of stress.
Thriving in chaos, right?
I mean,
F were you thinking?
I have so many questions, but let's like
Well, you know what? I mean, I think when we hear unhappy marriage, we realize that it didn't happen in like a nanosecond, right? So it had been brewing. So, and once again, wonderful guy, right? I don't have a history of bad, evil men. I just have a history of me and these men not being at the right time, the right place, the right framework. Is probably the best way to put that. So anyways, we're just going along our way. We're living in paradise. We're partially retired. Life could be just totally amazing. I'm working part-time for Delta Airlines. I've got this great little job. I'm loving it, and I'm bored out of my mind. I had been 3 jobs my entire life, and we moved to Florida, and now I'm working like 10 hours a week, and I'm just coming out of my tree. So I start looking for something to do. I'm like, what can I do? I got trained with the Red Cross to be a volunteer for emergencies, disasters. And one day there was a Groupon to get your real estate license. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, I don't know. It's like, never thought about real estate, but it's only $65. Like I really can't screw that up, right? $65.
I took that class in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
No big deal, right?
I think everybody should know most of the stuff taught in those classes, by the way.
That's actually a very valid point. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, I think that, the point I'm making here is that there are so many situations in my life, and it happens to everybody. Everybody has these beautiful, incredible moments that are disguised as hell. Okay. So taking the real estate exam was not exciting. It was information that I was like, ew. But I did it. It was a challenge, and I love a challenge. So 30 days later, I've got this swanky new license. I've got this cute little business card, and I really don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it was a thrill that I passed the test. It was really kind of it. $65, passed the test. And then 2 weeks later, COVID happens. And I remember sitting there at the airport.
I have to point out, this is not a great time for anybody in real estate, let alone somebody who just started. Go ahead.
Hence why the license was $65.
It was kind of, you just kind of sitting there like, I mean, it was terrifying, seeing that was trauma for sure, for all of us. That was a level of trauma that was hard to get.
Changed the world, changed everything forever.
All the airplanes are stopped. Like there's no people, everything's happening. So we all take this leave of absence voluntarily and kind of sit there and go, what am I going to do? And I'm sitting at home and I begin to feel and reflect. I have felt this level of bondage before in my life. and I will never go back to that again. And I just felt so powerless that everything was going to come in on me, suffocate me, and I was just going to die like a bug if I didn't do something.
Right.
Wow.
And that's when I just sat there and I said, you know what? I looked at my husband at the time, and you know what? We're not happy. And, I wish you well. And, I'm sorry, but we kind of knew this was coming, and we parted ways. And the first house I sold was my own. And then I took my little dog, who was like my soul person, and we moved to a town where I didn't know anybody. And I'm like, I'm going to start this business with this particular brokerage, and I'm going to just tear it up and make shit happen. And that's what I did. And it was the best magic ever. I could have never made that up.
Well, I did want to touch on your soulmate dog. I totally, just so you know, I sympathize. My dog is right there in front of me. She's the best dog I've ever had, and I'll say that about
Gracie.
every dog I've ever had. Gracie is right over there. You lost your best friend, your soulmate, and in that, you had to come. You had a light bulb moment that helped you process the loss differently than any other in your life. In your life? Can you describe? I don't want to go bummer on the show, but like that light bulb moment, I'm interested in the.
Yeah, because I think it's important. I think that these lessons are super important. I mean, and being human beings, we are hardwired to recognize and feel loss, right? Almost more so, I believe, than to recognize and feel gratitude first. 100%. So when Wesley died, and Wesley, I mean, anybody that knows me knows he was like my right hand, like he was my entire world. But I realized, and he died very, very suddenly, and he died at a time when we were completely rebooting. Like we were going to go have this like brand new mad life, right? Everything was going to be completely just on our terms, like it always is. And
boom, we'll get into shortly.
He's gone. So I'm sitting there like, all right, the first reaction is complete grief. Like I've lost, he's gone. I can't breathe. And then it didn't take long. It was probably an hour. And I started sitting there going, wow, you know what? This is kind of weird. Like, how did this happen at exactly right now when I really needed him? But did I really? And then I just started moving through that, and I recognized that when he found me, he left me in such a greater way than when he came, so everything. And I just had dinner tonight with a friend of mine, and it's very uncanny to me. I'm like, can you imagine the timing that Wesley had was just exactly the way it was supposed to be. And he did exactly the job he was supposed to do. And so much gratitude for that.
I have two friends who recently lost dogs, and I'm pretty sure at least one of them will be crying openly right now. Your description of that.
It's hard.
It's hard. There are a lot of people, I should say. I don't believe anybody in this room who really believe that animals are family. And I am one of them. My dog is my daughter. My cats are my boys. I will protect them as though they were actually my kids, sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
I make fun of them more than I would a human kid, but they do dumber things. It's also that I think one lesson that I've learned in moments like that are the differences between want and need. Mm-hmm. I needed you there. I'm like, no, I wanted you there. I wanted you to see what was going to happen. I wanted you to have all the bonuses versus need. And it's sometimes a realization. And Zaz, before we go, we've been talking a lot. Actually, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. It'll come back to me. But yeah, we were just going on. We keep going back to the similar topics. It'll hit me again, and I'll jump in with it. But go ahead, Zaz.
Oh yeah. So earlier I was mentioning that it was pre-show actually to the guys a little bit of how the sausage is made. Is we do a lot of research and going through obviously you have quite the story, stories plural. I mean, there's a lot. And this next question, I told the guys, I'm asking this. I need context. I need to make sure 100% like watching the videos and everything. And it was like, and I think it was Silence is Costing You Millions. You mentioned it's to close out. You have a game where you consult your future 90-year-old self, the next step. Wait, that's
Yeah, no, that's a little bit later.
no, yeah, that's a little bit later. I'm messing myself up because it was like, oh, that's what it was. I was going to say that's not nearly as offensive, but it was like you mentioned telling people at a party that you're an expert in incest. That's what it was.
Isn't that just
And
great?
I was like, I was like, it's a conversation stopper, like for real. Like, how do you maintain your own boundaries and energy when you're the one in the room?
So it's funny. So I don't typically at a cocktail party or something say, "Oh yeah, so I'm an expert in this." You know,
100%, yeah.
But
would be
it's
hilarious.
really. But what's that?
It would be hilarious if that was your thing.
It
You just
actually
walked
kind
into
of
the party.
It really can be. I mean, there's certain people that you kind of need to like, you know, and that will actually really
Take
work.
the tree, see what falls.
But it was a point that I was making, you know, because we do like to put on this persona of, yes, well, I'm a scientist, and yes, I'm an attorney, and yes, I'm this and that.
Right.
Like, okay, right, all right. So wow, so you've got this great title, you know what I mean? But we are all an expert in our life.
Right.
But we do not like to talk about that because we
Correct.
need to be an expert in something that's acceptable.
Right.
But, you know, in all honesty, I mean, you know, Nathaniel, with relationships, right? So that's something that you enjoy and you've got a lot of knowledge in, you know, and I have a lot of knowledge in incest and abuse and alcohol and drugs and suicide. I have a lot of knowledge in that. Why would I not want to share that for the benefit of others the same way that Nathaniel would want to share his, and a doctor or an attorney or a scientist would want to share theirs, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But it rattles people.
That is. So how do you, like, after you've rattled them, do you then tell them why you did it? Like, because I'm a fan of being like walking into a room and making people drop a glass with one sentence. But then I kind of let them in on, like, I'm doing this for a reason. Do you or do you tell them, hey, listen, I'm an expert at this and I'm not ashamed of it. There's no shame in being an expert in me or certain things, even if it's not a cool topic.
Yeah, exactly. You know, sometimes it depends. Sometimes I have this little snarky part that comes out. I don't know if you're familiar with IFS, but we have these parts. I've got this snarky one that if there's somebody that's just a little bit too pompous or just a little bit, or I feel that somebody is kind of looking down on another, I like to deflect. So I'm like, you know, once again, I'm the oldest, right? So you've got that little protector in there. And if I see somebody that's trying to like diminish somebody else's value, I very easy deflect it right here. You know what I mean? So it depends in context, but ultimately I don't ever like anybody to feel uncomfortable. That is
right.
That's a big deal for me. I don't like
it's like
that.
Something you said earlier, like you were like, it was something along the lines. It was like, there's no static set of rules. There's, you know, everybody has a certain way about things. And
right.
It's kind of that too. Reading a room. I mean, it's
right.
It's it's a chess game mentally, you know, you just got to go, what can be done here? And as a protector, like you said, you go, oh, here's my next move. You know? And I get that.
The good thing is when I come into a room hot or with something like that, and the people who want to avoid me are usually people I want to avoid anyway. So yeah. It works to everybody's benefit. Like, you don't have to talk to everybody at a party. In fact, you can't. So talk to people who you can share. I don't do the echo chamber thing. In fact, I do the opposite. But I am always going to be me. Like, I'm sure you're always you. You could not have written this book. You couldn't answer these questions. You couldn't say the words you've said for all these years without being as honest as you are. And it sucks to walk into a situation where somebody wants you to do certain words or whisper, incest, don't say that loud.
Yeah.
Like, did that even turn up? I don't know how good this microphone is, but I remember,
you have like a $500 shore, son.
I wanted to circle back on. We keep talking about mourning. And it's something that I have used a lot in relationships. Like, somebody doesn't have to die for you to be in mourning. What mourning is a change you didn't want to happen. Which happens every day almost. So like, we're always in some stage of mourning, usually about something little. And we could do, like, as we know, the stages of grief aren't in order or even all at the same time. You could have one. So, you know, I wanted a red cherry jelly bean, but instead you got a green one and you have to deal with it. Like, oh, that sucks. That's a level of mourning. It's microscopic. It doesn't mean anything. But like, you were going through mourning. People who put their child up for adoption experience different types of mourning. And I think it's just amazing that we keep circling around this topic And also part of your philosophy is, hey, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So like I think it all ties in together. Like this is mourning, but you also recognize that, like, hey, somebody will be mourning me someday. But at least, and I want to tie this into a philosophy I have. If people are going to hate me, they're going to hate the real me. I'm not going to be the person that's putting on a show or saying the right things because they want to hear it. So that's why I really appreciate you and what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Sorry, it seems rambling and all over the place, but I wanted to get my thought back in. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I think that's so important too, because we're taught. It's so interesting. If you look at a child, right? And I think it's so important that we do dive back into that 5-year-old child and just kind of relive that, joie de vivre that we all had. Like we just loved, we didn't have the fears. We didn't have the biases. We just loved and we just played. Everything was fun, and as you're moving through life, you're just squished down and down and down and down. And then we take on these roles. These are like the labels, right? These are the roles that we must have. It's like when you go to a funeral, the role must be sadness and solemn. I'm sorry for your loss. But why can't the role be different than that? Why can't the role be, hey, you know what? I just loved you so much while you were still here that I actually picked up the phone and called you every once in a while instead of it's been 10 years and I'm sorry that you're dead. You know what I mean? It's just really funny. We put on that role though, but we don't have to do all of those things. I mean, it's funny. We can choose to mourn or we can choose to have gratitude or we can choose other options as well. Yeah. They're all our choices. We all are where we are because we choose to be.
That was something I was going to ask you, because going through this, you probably got asked a million times, what's the one piece of advice that you know what I mean? That's such a trope. And hearing like just how raw you are with that and your brutal honesty, it's like, I want to ask you the antithesis is like, what are people getting wrong? You think like, what is the one thing that people say to do? What do you think they're just consistently getting it wrong?
I think probably I would say the root of it is that they have way too many things here and they're not going here, which is where all the answers are. Okay. So I don't think that people are getting things wrong, so to speak. I think that they have never learned or have forgotten. They have learned because they came this way. Our answers are right in our core. Yeah. And when we stop with this outside noise and we get really quiet with ourselves, we can feel, we can think, we have all the answers. So it's really just starting from that place of, wow, you know what? I am in here and this is good. Right. And there's more. It starts small like that. It doesn't start where, okay, so you must get a therapist, then you must, none of that shit's going to work like that until you can start to get the noise. And I mean, that was a really difficult part for me because once again, resources were very slim. Yeah. I would have loved to plugged into podcasts and different things to try to get help. But it was very hard for me to go in here because I hated me so deeply that I literally had to retrain myself to actually let that in. And that was extremely difficult, very, very hard. Self-talk is very hard, but it's so very necessary because if we don't do that, we're just taking in all of these outside words and we're just ingraining them into us. You're stupid. You're this, you're that. Yes, I am. I was so incredibly negative that I would always, I'm just stupid. I'm just an idiot. I'm so stupid. I told myself that over and over and over. And then I apologized to everybody for anything that happened. Something on the other room of a restaurant would happen. And I'd say, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much easier to like just go with the negative. I mean, it is such a reflex. It's outside influences will do that. Sorry, Daniel.
No, I appreciate it. I did want to talk to you about a core energy transitions specialist. What is that? Because that's what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
What is that, and what does it entail? And how did you find that?
Yeah, such a cool. Here's the universe with the magic again, right? So this all this really cool stuff happens. So it was we had a really bad hurricane down here in 22, and it was right after Wesley and I bought our first house, and I literally just completely needed to get out of this weird energy that was happening in Florida. So we went up to North Carolina and got a cabin. And in early 2024, I rented the cabin for us for, we'd go once or twice a month or so for a few days and then drive back to Florida. But that was like our place. And I said, I'm going to write my book. I'm going to write my book and I am going to get support for that. So I'm going to get a trauma therapist because I need somebody on deck as I'm doing a deep dive. I got to have a life preserver next to me. And I'm going to hire a coach because I want to find somebody to help me transition, real estate business into book writing, author, speaker. So I start interviewing coaches and I run across one that says, well, I'm a core energy coach. And I was like, so intrigued, right? I love energy and anything about that. So I took a look at where she got her certification and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go a step above that and I'm going to become that. So I took that course at the same year I wrote my book. And what I learned about core energy is all stuff that we know. We just don't realize it, but we show up energetically based on our past experiences, how we view the world, our current experiences. And there's different levels of energy, how people show up. So I'll give you a quick example. If we were all sitting around a table and I dumped a glass of red wine, all of us are going to have a different reaction to that red wine spill. It's going to be and the energy levels are going to all be different because once again, past performance, experiences, whatever have you. And that's oversimplifying.
You'll apologize.
It's really, so exactly. Some people will freak out. It's going to ruin the floor. It's going to ruin the table, right? Yep. So what happened when you were 7 and you spilled something? So, it's a very simple way of looking at a very complex theory, but it really is incredible. And it's been such an asset to me, not only in my business, but in my personal relationships and in myself. So, if I get stuck on something, I can ask myself questions to pull the answer out because we all have it. We all have it. We all have the answers. We just need the right questions to bring that out. So that was just such an amazing gift that only happened because I was seeking the tools to help me write the book,
And you found more tools. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I had a question lined up to flow off that. And so you became certified, right?
Yes.
And so do you teach others now, or do you use that just personally? How do you use that certification? And
I've
does
got
it help
workshops.
you in the real estate?
I use it in workshops. So I didn't get that certification to do a one-on-one coaching business. I did it it helps me with speaking. It helps me with, talking to people. It helps me, I can do workshops on it. So that's definitely beneficial for people. I love to train realtors, very beneficial in that as well. So there's just everything, even just talking to my grandson. I mean, some simple concept like, you have a bubble. This is your energy bubble, dude. And he's 4. You control the energy bubble. So when you wake up in the morning, you want your bubble to be cranky and angry, he can be. But if you wake up and you want him to be a happy, fun bubble, he can be. So it's just kind of teaching that, these are emotions that you control.
I love it.
It's not anybody else because that's what we do as big people. Well, he's just an asshole. So that's why
he pissed me off.
Exactly.
I do that in traffic, honestly. I realized that I just gave that person control over my emotions. He cut me off and now I'm mad. I'm like, that guy's an asshole, and I gave him control.
Yes. Who's bubble?
Yeah. I like it. It applies.
Yeah.
Before we're slowly running out of time here, and I definitely wanted to touch on this because with
seriously, oh my god, wow, this is gone quick, like crazy quick. Holy smokes! Sorry.
No, it's because this is such a unique topic for us, and when we have an expert, also with a life to share, like there's a billion questions to ask, and I'm just trying to keep it together to tell the story in some sort of intelligent fashion. But if you and I, like you said, we're sitting around the room and you spilled wine, I'd probably tell a joke and then ask you a billion questions about your life. That's the energy I bring.
You also don't want to spoil the book Trauma Recycled. I mean, that's
we'll recycle that. You've expressed a surprise at the number of men who have connected with your story. What's the most common thing that men share with you in private that they're too afraid to share in public, or that they want to ask if they should even share in public?
It's really the interactions that I have had. One, they read my book and have made just little, nothing too detailed, nothing like, hey, this happened to me, or nothing at all like that, but they have commented and they've thanked me for the book. One of the most impactful, this is when it really hit me. I was a keynote speaker at an event, and when I got done, and later on, after the event was over, and I was walking out through the room, this young man came up and he was just sobbing, and he's just hugging me, just thanking me, just thank you for talking about what you did. And I'll never know what it was. But he was so moved, and then I go out into the lobby and I'm walking, and an older gentleman came up and he grabbed my arm and he had emotion on his face and he just said, thank you. And I was like, wow, like women are different, right? Women will come up and they'll share, but two men at one event like that, to that degree, really was like, wow, like that just felt such an honor.
And while recognizing what we just covered is that people generally gravitate towards negativity. So to get two positives, it's like a review on a restaurant. You're going to meet a million negatives, and very few people who had a great time will write a review. Those guys were really touched to the point where they had to tell you.
It almost like they felt relief. Like they almost felt like, wow, somebody told our story. Yeah. And it's okay.
It's amazing. That has to be worth everything.
That was, to me, I can't even ever describe the level of gratitude that is. I can't.
I have an idea just from advice I've given in the past. I've had people come back years later and tell me what my advice did. And I know that's on the little side, right? It was just, I told them, hey, why don't you just talk to your wife? Stuff like that. But you in your life, if somebody made a movie of your life, the different phases you've been in, from the 80s alcoholic to just homeless, all the things, you would need several different actors to cover you and the segments of your life. So for the men listening who are over 50 and feel like their best years are behind them, or that it's too late, which you may have felt 10 years ago and then 20 years ago, what would you say to help them cover or uncover the wisdom and experience that you've got to?
I guess, well, for me, I never felt too late. I still am kind of astounded that I'm 60. So I think that's still kind of weird for me.
No, I'm 55 and I'm like, when did this happen?
Yeah, because age has not ever been, I wanted to die for so many years that I think every year I didn't, I grew more amazed, honestly. So I never sat there and got to a space where it was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do this stuff anymore. I mean, it's just, there really is there's only age if we choose it to be, so people will feel like they're washed up, or their career is over, or how could I leave my marriage? I mean, people looked at me like, why would you leave? Why would you leave just because you're unhappy? That's stupid. Well, what are you talking about?
You answered your own question first off. Why would you leave? I was unhappy.
That's
There's
really
no
nuts,
rule that says you have to stay in place.
I mean, life is meant to be lived. You know what I mean? Yes. And I caught myself, the reason Wesley and I were planning such a big move is I found myself, I made a ton of money in real estate. I mean, it was like such a ridiculous machine, unbelievable money. My first year, 6 figures, second year, 6 figures, bought a house and continued
first year, 6 figures in real estate.
First year.
I know it's Florida, but
first year.
Golly.
Wow.
First year.
Well done.
I mean, that really, and it's not because I'm an incredible salesperson. My trauma recycled.
I was going to say, I'm going to challenge that.
This is where Trauma Recycled, the name of the book, comes in. I took all of the crappiest parts of my life and the toughest things that ever happened, and didn't realize that I was kind of recycling that slowly but surely into the greatest parts of me. Compassion, empathy, service, all of those things were formulated from that life of hell, because I began my IV, and my thriving began with people telling me I was good. I was a limo driver and you did a good job. wow, I did. Wow. All right. So kind of filled up the emotional tank a little bit. So after a number of years of that, I started to believe it. And I started to feel better about myself. And all of that was coming back. The better service I gave, the better my tank was filled. So when I went into the real estate industry, I didn't go in knowing anything about houses. You don't have to know about houses to be good at real estate.
People.
You have to know people, and you have to care to know people. And then you need to know the market analysis and all those different kinds of smart things. But essentially, if you don't know people and you don't care to know people, you could spin your wheels for a very long time. But I caught myself on this treadmill, and I was just on this treadmill and making money. And like, money was great, but why? Why was I doing this? What were we doing? Wesley and I were just like busy. So I said, you know what? I'm selling it all. We're done. Selling the house, everything in it. And I sold so much and donated so much, I had to go buy shoes because everything was gone, and put whatever was going to fit in my Subaru and take off. And 4 days.
Can I pause you here real quick? I assume because of the children, you're still in contact with your ex. What did he think about you doing this?
Well, my ex that I was married to, I married once my kids were older and out of the house. So we were only married for 8 years.
Okay.
So my children's father, so they, I mean, they're just kind of used to me. You know what I mean? My kids are just kind of like, all right, Mom, you know,
she's doing it again. She's discovering something new. I think that's a great thing, though. Even if somebody does this and they're not greatly successful, or if they just they're happy. I'm happy when people take that chance.
Exactly.
I've not been brave enough so far. At some point, maybe, but I'm generally happy though. So like, I don't have the impetus to do these things. I mean, there's always fantasies and stuff you want to do, right? That's something I did want to get into. Are you going to change again?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I already have. I mean, I did still sell the house, and I did still take off in my little car, and I traveled all around. And right now I'm currently back in Florida because of 80 degrees and sunny during the winter. But you know what? I don't stay in any one place for any long time. And I will be definitely making another transition again. I mean, I kind of do it every couple of years because I'm really good at it, and it's fun. And why not?
You get to experience a different you.
Why not? A different version of me that I'm bringing to the table.
And being self-aware that it's not the same version of you is key. And it's also something I do in my daily life. I don't regret stuff I did when I was a child because I was a child. Like I don't know if that's part of the energy thing, but like I was an idiot kid. Why would I as an adult expect that any idiot kid to get that right? Or a teenager who cheated on his girlfriend, like, of course you screwed up. You're a teenager. And I even do that like 5 years ago. Like, I was 5 years less experienced. That wasn't my best call. And I think that matters to be able to look back and go, well, that was a different me. I hadn't learned these things yet. And I just never use it as an excuse. That was me. That's what I decided. But it's okay. I made a bad call.
I love that. Yeah.
You, real quick, you have a game where you consult your future 90-year-old self for the next step. If you were to ask her right now what piece of the jigsaw puzzle you are currently missing in your mission to help others, what do you think she'd whisper back?
You know, I think that right now, like really just playing full out and going to be of service in a place that I've never been to in a manner that I never would have ever considered is something that's going to be on deck for me. I know that and I think this is important for us all to do, project being on your deathbed. I think that we need to really come to grips with death a little bit better in our society. Be on the deathbed and just sit there and go like, what would I say to myself? And I tell you, like, I would be so incredibly freaking grateful to myself for the life that I've given. And I will not go down with anything that is a someday. I stopped doing someday a long time ago. I don't do it. I don't say it. There is no someday. It's happening or it's not. And I think that's important.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I get that. I absolutely. Yeah. That's phenomenal.
Instead of saying someday, and we're running out of time, you will be back.
100%.
You will be back. We are not done. I originally, when I first, when you first,
I don't want to cut you off, but I can't stress enough. We've covered just one tiny outer layer of like everything we were going.
I had 10 questions about limo driving. I'm not kidding you, because I'm sure you have stories. Everybody has the kids who want the alcohol, or somebody who rents it just to get laid and doesn't. You have stories, and I want to dig into those. In fact,
yes,
go ahead, give us just one real quick to get us out of here, and then we're going to talk about your podcast and tell people again how to get a hold of you.
You know what? There's a million limo stories that I could tell, but one of my favorites. I was in New York City, outside the Waldorf Astoria. I was very early to pick up a couple to bring them back to their house, and there was a very old woman standing there by herself with her little bags. And I walked up to her and asked how she was doing, and she said, "I've never seen a limo before. Can I look at yours?" And I opened up the door for her to see it. And she just caught her breath like this. And she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm looking at it." And I said, "Why don't you get in?" And she said, "Well, my daughter's coming to pick me up in a minute." I said, "Well, get in and we're going to go around the block. And when she comes here, then, we'll let her in." So she got in and we drove around. And I tell you what, that could bring me to tears right now thinking of that woman. I still have her picture. Because we went around the block, was her daughter walking to pick her up. We put her in the limo and we continued around the block and went back to the front of the Waldorf and let her out. And that.
No, in the Waldorf,
like in front of the Waldorf. Story says so much about the soul of who you are. The person inside you is like, I could let you in the back. Like, yeah, sure, I could take you. Like it's not most people say get. Yeah, and you stopped to talk to her first, which people don't do.
I'll never forget her.
And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Zaz, for helping out. I really appreciate everybody for watching, tuning in. We do have some shows coming up. We'll have those at the very end here. Please, I'm going to buy Trauma Recycled because I need to hear all the stories. We're going to have you back at some point to cover the more questions I have after reading your book. Please use the QR code, the URL, Josh. I know he has his finger on it. Yeah, he does. And Peshka.com. You can find everything else there. And right before we get out of here, do you want to tell us about the podcast you're working on or what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's called Trauma Recycled Conversations. And I'm going to be going through each chapter of my book and talking about the chapters and kind of opening up the doors for people, questions that they may have about it, and it's all raw conversation. The whole podcast is just the guests that I have on are just real, true blue people moving through stuff.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Zaz, you have anything else?
No. Like I said, I need to follow up because there's a lot of other pieces here that we want to discuss. I mean, like I said, we covered. I was telling the guys earlier, like pretty quickly, we jumped from like decade to decade, and there's a lot more there, especially considering once we get our teeth sunk into the book, it's gonna be a lot more fun round two. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought we were spoiling too much, but you just made me. You sold the book.
That was like not ask. Yeah. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Tune in next week. We're gonna have 2 more shows coming up, possibly 3, and then we're gonna take a summer break for a little bit. Our next guest, Josh, if you have those ready, Jenica Berger, actor, producer, director, flailing mother of 3. You've seen her in Drew Carey, Shameless, Modern Family. She's produced Mermaid and 2 Beaches, which I believe you can see on YouTube and you want to check it out. And Bosch, I forgot to mention that. A lot of people like that show. Tune in next week and she'll be here. And then after that, we're going to have Jackie the Joke Man Martling from the Howard Stern Show. We're going to discuss his entire life is my plan, which we'll run out of shortly. And hopefully he'll let us play Stump the Joke Man.
All right, I'm dying. All right,
thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you again, Ann. Love you being here.
And that was awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're so much fun. Thank you.
Everybody be safe.